So welcome everybody to this latest video on 162 Maths, and in this video we're continuing with the series of going through some GCSE Maths higher big mark questions taken from some past papers. Now as always there'll be a copy of the question paper and the mark scheme for you to download and have an attempt at before watching through this video as we go through the answers. Or alternatively, all you need to do is just simply pause the video as I read through the question, have an attempt at it, then unpause to go through the answer. Now, before approaching a big mark question, it's always important that you try and have an attempt at trying to establish what topic each of the questions refer to. Now, in some cases, a question like many of these will only involve one particular area of maths. However, some big mark questions do involve a mixture of different topics. So it's important that you keep an open mind when working through these questions. So let's get started on question one. Now, question one, if you've not had a chance to print out the question and you're viewing this on the screen, apologies because this may prove to be quite small, only because I'm trying to get everything all on the screen. So this question says that a farmer is building a fence using posts and beams, and we've got posts and beams and what they look like. And it says that the total length of the fence is 2,700 centimeters, and it says use the formula to work out the cost of the fence using that formula, where B is the number of beams and P is the number of posts. So let me just zoom in a little bit just so that we can have a clearer picture as to what this looks like. So the first thing we need to do with this question is first of all establish how many beams and how many posts we are going to have for this fence. So we know that the total fence is 2,700 centimeters, and that a beam is 180 centimeters long, and we've got a post starting at the very start and then goes all the way in intervals of 180. So looking at this, so if we look at the number of beams, well, to work out the number of beams, all we need to do here is do the total length, which is 2,700, and we divide that by 180. So if we type that into our calculator, we end up with 15. Now, for each 180, we're using 2 beams. So if you then multiply that by 2, it gives us a total of 30 beams. Now, the next thing for us to work out is then how many posts are we going to need? Well, if we're going to have 15 going across all the way up to build up to 2,700 centimeters, then the posts are going to be 15. But we need to add 1 because we're starting with a post to start off with. So in other words, if we looked at this here, so this is going to be our first post, that's going to be our second, that's going to be our third, and this is going to go up to 15. Now the one that we are ignoring is the starting post, which is 0, and that's where the +1 comes in. So I'm actually going to need 16 posts. So then, using these 2 bits of information as my B and P values, I've now got to substitute it into the formula to work out the cost. So the cost is going to be 5 lots of the number of beams, which is 30, plus 2 times the number of posts, which is 16. And if I type that all into my calculator, I should end up with an answer of £310. Then moving on to question 2, where we can actually zoom in so we've got a bit more on screen. So it says 5 whole numbers are written in order, and we've got 4, 7, x, y and 11. The mean and the median of the 5 numbers are the same, and the question is asking us to work out the values of x and y. So let's first of all just establish some of the facts. So we know that x and y are numbers between 7 and 11, and what we do know is that if the mean equals the median, then the mean, which is going to be 4 plus 7 plus x plus y equals 11, divided by, also plus 11, not doing where I wrote equals there, plus 11 divided by 5, and the median, if the numbers are written in order, are going to equal x. So if the mean equals the median, then what I end up with is I'm going to end up with x plus y plus 22 divided by 5 equals x. Then if I take the 5 over to the other side, what I end up with is x plus y equals 5x, and I forgot the 22, so let's just put the 22 there. And from this, what I can do is just do a bit of rearranging and some collecting of like terms. I'm going to end up with 4x minus y equals 22. I'm going to end up with 4x minus 22 equals y. And they're the possible two equations that I could have. So taking any of these, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this one here, that as I know that x is between 7 and 11, so let me just write x and let me write y. So if I start off with x equals 7, then using 4x minus 22 equals y, I can then work out what y is going to equal. And if it's between 7 and 11, then it's going to be an appropriate number. So here, 4 times 7, which is 28, take away 22, gives me 6. So that's not going to be a possible option. Next option I go for is 8. So here, 4 times 8, which is 32, take away 22, gives me the answer of 10. Now, does that give me a value between 7 and 11? Yes, it does. So that's one possible option. Then if I try 9 just for the sake of it, 4 times 9 is 36. Take away 22 gives me 14, which is not a possible option because 14 is bigger than 11. So the only possible options I could have is when x equals 8 and y equals 10. Now moving on to question 3, it says the rectangle has a width of w and a length of l. 16 of the triangles are put together to form a larger rectangle as shown, and the area of this larger rectangle is 38.4, and the question is asking us to work out the value of w, and this question is worth 5 marks, so there's quite a lot of work needed for this. So first things first, let's just work out what the dimensions of this larger rectangle is going to be using this rectangle here. So this total length here is going to be the equivalent of 5w, and the height of this rectangle is going to be the equivalent of 2l plus 2w. So what I know is that 5w multiplied by 2 lengths, 2 widths is equal to 38.4. Now, unfortunately, I can't do anything with that because I need an equation where I've just got one letter. So what I need to do is I need to try and rewrite this 2L in terms of W. Now, one thing I do know from the diagram is that if these green lengths represent W and these lengths here represent L, then what I then know is that 5w equals 3l, and if I make L the subject, I get 5w over 3 equals L. Then from this, if I then substitute this into this equation here, I end up with 5w multiplied by 2 times 5 over 3w plus 2w equals 38.4. Now that might seem a lot of working out, but actually it's not that bad to work out. So here I've got 5w multiplied, and if I neaten that up, that's going to be 10 over 3w plus 2w equals 38.4. And if I neaten this up, I'm going to get 16 over 3w multiplied by 5w, and that equals 38.4. Then if I neaten all of this up by doing 5 times 16 over 3, what I do is I get an answer of, let me just type that in now, so it's going to be 80 over 3 w squared equals 38.4. So then if I take that 80 over 3 over to the side by dividing, so 38.4 divided by 80 over 3, I get an answer of 1.44. So then square root that, and I get an answer of 1.2. And there is my final answer for W. Moving on to question 4, it says that this triangular plot of land is for sale. The land is sold for £6,400 per acre. 1 acre is equivalent of 4,047 metres squared. Work out the cost of land, give your answer to 2 sig fig. So first things first, what I need to do is to work out the area of this triangle, and to work out the area of the triangle I need to know the base and the height, or half AB sine C. Now I'm not going to use trig because I don't know what the other two angles are apart from the 90-degree angles, so we're not going to go for that one. So let's first of all work out what the height is, which is BA, which I'm just going to call as X. So to work out x, I'm going to use Pythagoras, so it's going to be 80 squared minus 64 squared. And if I type that into my calculator, I get 2304. So x equals 48. So then, knowing the height, I can then work out the area. So the area is base times height divided by 2. So it's going to be 48 times 64 divided by 2. And that gives me an area of 1,536 square meters. Then I need to convert that into acres. So if I do 1536 divided by 4047, I type that into my calculator and I get 1536 divided by 4047. I get an answer of 0.379540. But then if I multiply that by the cost, which is 6,400, I get an answer of 2,429 and 6 pence. But I need to round up to 2 sig fig, so it's going to be to the nearest 100, so it's going to be £2,400. Then moving on to question 5, it says that a small toy is made by joining a solid cone with a solid hemisphere together. The cone and this hemisphere have a radius of 6, and the first part of the question is asking us to show that the volume of the toy is equal to 312 pi centimeter cubed. Now the total volume is going to be the volume of the cone plus the volume of the hemisphere. So to work out the volume of the cone, well, the formula for that is going to be 1/3 pi r squared h, and the volume of the hemisphere of a sphere is 4/3 pi r cubed. So the volume of a hemisphere is going to be half of that, so it's going to be 2/3 pi r cubed. And it's these two formulas that I'm going to be using to work out the total volume. So the total volume, knowing that h is going to be, for the cone, is going to be 14, because this length here is 6, so then this length here is going to be 14, or 20 take away 6, which is 14, and r equals 6. So then what we've got is we've got 1/3 times pi times 6 squared times 14 plus, and then we've got the sphere, which is 2/3 times pi times 6 cubed. So then working out each of those lengths, then we're going to get, so looking at this one here, that's going to be 168 pi, and this one here, typing into our calculator, is going to give us 144 pi, which totally adds up to 312 pi. Then for the next question, it says that the larger version of the toy has so the larger version of the toy is made that has dimensions twice the size of the small toy, and the mass is 1.5 kilograms. The toy is made from foam. Work out the density of the foam. Give your answer in grams per cubic centimeter. So first things first, with density, we know that the formula is mass over volume. Now the mass we want in grams, and we've got it in kilograms, so that's going to be 1.5 times 1,000, which is 1,500. Then to work out the volume, now we've been told that the lengths have been doubled, so the length scale factor is 2, which means that the volume scale factor is going to be 2 cubed, which is 8. So that means that the volume of the toy is going to be 8 times 312 pi. Now alternately, you could have gone the route of changing each of these dimensions to 12 and this to 28, and then done the whole process again. But if you think smart, you won't actually need to do that. So this then equals 2496 pi. So I've got my volume, I've got my mass, so the density is going to be 1500 divided by 2496 pi. And if I type that into my calculator, I get an answer of 0.19129, blah, blah, blah. And if I round that number up to, let's say, 2 decimal places, I get 0.19, and that's to 2 decimal places.